little tasting for the ages. We're back with some Wild Turkey products.
Yep. I got some special ones lined up with DJ from Rarebird 101. We have got Russell's Reserve 13-year limited edition release. Came out this year. Something I got serendipitously. The Single Cask Nation independent bottling group 9-year-old single barrel wild turkey at cask strength.
Yep.
And I assume this is 2021 or 2020, but this year's version of Wild Turkey Rare Breed.
Yep.
The reason we have chosen these three whiskeys is they are all relatively close in age and all relatively the same proof. They're not far off from each other.
Right.
And we're going to dive into those, kind of see some, get the differences and subtleties between the three and which ones, I know the Single Cask Nation's a kind of a one-off, but see which ones are worth the price point. And but while we do that, we're talking about the big-time limited editions that have come out in the Wild Turkey world in the past and possibly what's coming out in the future. So
sounds good.
Hit the Russell's 13 first, DJ.
Which one of them?
Okay, which I should note, you would mention that these were all similar in age, but Russell's 13 is
it's
a
older.
batch of 13 and 19-year whiskey, so
right,
a little bit older there, but just for a little clarification. But the age statement is 13, so if you take that at face value, then it's not too far from the others.
So the Russell's Reserve comes in, it is non-chill filtered, and it is 114.8 proof.
It's excellent. It's one of the best things Eddie's ever made.
I love, I was trying to find the words the other night, and the only thing I could come up with is like cherry cola bottle caps. Just like that pure cherry cola-ness.
Yeah. I see that. Taste that. Yeah.
And that's so neat.
Yeah. It has a lot of that cherry note, that leather note, the oak, the spice, like a black pepper in there, maybe some licorice. Very complex, very mature, very well blended. It doesn't come across as overpowering. For example, the 2002, and we had talked about this on either a prior episode or some off time. The 2002 was a little bit heavy, a little bit tannic. You could feel that proof. This one, it really sips pretty nicely for 114 proof, or almost 115.
It's very gentle.
And that's actually under the barrel entry proof, isn't it?
Just under it.
Just under it, yep.
Just under it.
What I don't get on this, out of the bottle that I did on that sample that I had a little time to oxidize, is that, I'm not going to use funk, that twang. I don't get that twang on this one.
Yeah, it's very much a warm bourbon with a lot of warmer tones, a lot of char, leather we had mentioned, darker like a singed caramel, like a heavily seared creme brulee.
Yeah.
all the notes here are very dark. If there's any vibrancy at all, it's in the spice elements.
Mm-hmm.
Which you could kind of say is very zesty.
Yeah.
If you took the pepper aspect out of it, what would you be left with? And that would be like, like a zesty lemon, or tangerine or something like that. It has a little of that in it. It's definitely not the core profile, not to kind of mislead anyone. But it's there. It's definitely there on the nose and the finish for sure.
I like with this one that you get, because a lot of bourbons you get your nose is one thing, but your palate's another. And this one is very much almost a 1-for-1. You get this nice, rich, dark, complex nose, and that's the same palate that you get.
Yeah, it transitions very well from nose to taste to finish. The same notes are there. They're just in a different order with each phase. So the notes that you would, find in the nose or the finish or the palate, whatever, they're all there, just sequenced differently. Something might be more forward on the nose than it is with the finish.
This hits me more. I think I said it on our review of it. It kind of reminds me of a like somebody charred the outside of an apple pie, and then mixed it with the crust of like a cheesecake. It's real bready for me, but the deep richness comes from the deep sugar of an apple pie, like it's a cherry pie. The back end has that kind of pepper zest. It's a long finish, but it's almost like a firework. It's like a pop, and then there's a fizzle coming down the back.
One thing that I like about it is that with very mature whiskeys, again, this has 13-year and 19-year.
Right.
One thing with older whiskeys is that they can sometimes have a drying effect. Russell's 2002 had a very drying finish, and this doesn't dry out. It's like it doesn't leave your palate like you've just been chewing on a piece of oak.
Right.
And I think I actually remarked that when we did our review.
It maintains its sweetness.
Oh yeah,
it is, and that's really nice and really refreshing with something at this age point. I'm
barrel proof. Yeah,
proof.
We had talked about in another segment about, you had mentioned, Eric, about Barter House being a favorite of yours at 20 years, but that's 90 proof. They added some water to that. I don't know how much, but here, this is just, non-chill filtered, uncut.
Right. Like I said, the more and more that I have revisited this, I have got a better appreciation for it. I was very fortunate enough to get a bottle. I've had a good year for Wild Turkey limited releases, except for the 03. But I was able to get a 13. I was able to get a 1. I was finally able to get Saffel when it came in, and then I was able to get the Single Cask Nation. Just luck of the draw, got that one.
Honestly, I feel like I've never done this comparison before, but just tonight, and sipping this, and I'll have to go back and look at it. Some of those same sweet, leathery, oak, citrusy, dark citrus, singed citrus, charred kind of notes that you get in this Russell's 13. You get them in the 2003 as well. It's just the proof is a lot lower.
Right.
It's more of a finessed expression. But I would say there's some similarities between the two.
Okay. Now with that being said, with the 13-year whiskey of this and the 19-year, did it had two different barrel entry proofs?
Well, yeah, the 19-year would have been the old barrel entry proof for sure. The 13-year, let's see, we'd be going back to 2004 for the 107, so it wouldn't quite hit that. And then would be 2004 through 2006 would be the 110. So if it's 13 years, still probably not hitting that mark unless they tanked it.
Okay.
So we're looking at probably a combination here of the 107 and the 115.
Very interesting. Well,
whereas the 2003 is all the 107.
That would make more sense on the proof being where it is, with their normal proof being one. Is it 115? Is the barrel entry right now?
The barrel entry proof right now is 115. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would make more sense because this doesn't taste like it lost proof.
Yeah.
When it comes to that. But yeah, I enjoyed that. This is it gets tastier every time I have it. So I've
Yeah.
got a better appreciation for it. Now I made a statement in our in our video, and I don't know see if you'll give me credence for it, but I said that this 13 was Russell Single Barrel kicked up to 11, kind of like how Rare Breed is kicked up 101. Is it? Do you give any merit to that? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah, no, I think that there's something to be said there. I mean, you take the right Russell Single Barrel, and you put it up against the 13-year, and I think that they could have a pretty decent fight, especially depending on one's individual profile preference. I don't think that, while I find the 13-year to be, generally speaking, the superior bourbon, it's definitely not secondary price difference kind of thing.
Which is shorter than 17-year Master's Keep. That still blows my mind.
Yeah, it's secondary is a whole nother crazy wonderland of weirdness.
That's what's wrong with the hobby.
Oh God! But yeah, I mean, yeah, put up the right single barrel against Russell's 13, and sure, it could win in the blind, no problem.
All right, you want to move on to number 2?
Let's do it.
All right. So this is Single Cask Nation, independent bottling company. I believe they're group, independent, whatever you want to call it, but they do a lot of scotches. They do some bourbons every now and again. I know they've done 2 others Wild Turkey picks.
Oh, they've done more than 2.
Okay.
They had at least 2 whiskey jubilees. They've had at least, besides the 2 they did this year, they've had at least 1, 2, 3 other ones on the Single Cask Nation label. So
but it's not one. It's not one every year. Like it's kind of sporadic whenever they can.
Right, it's whenever they can. But they've pretty much done something since 2016.
Okay.
So 16, I think they had a O. I think 17 was a G. 18 was that the year of the K? I can't remember. 19, I think, was the D and another K. 20, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Was this 20 or 21, this release?
This would be 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they had a CNA, and so they've had an E and a G. I think that's about it. I could be missing one. Jason and Joshua, if you're watching, I apologize. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely more than just a handful.
Yeah. All right. So we got Single Cask Nation, Wild Turkey, 9-year-old Warehouse E, 4th floor. There's 150 bottles, 57.85% ABV, which is, according to my phone, 115.7.
Yep.
I love this barrel, by the way. They had 2. It was there was a G, and there was this one, the E. And between the 2 of them, the E was my favorite.
The nose on this alone, when I got it, I texted Eric and said the nose on this is one of my favorite noses of a Wild Turkey expression. I'll just
the E is a different kind of thing going on.
Right.
Not to cut you off, you go right ahead. But
no, it was very not bready, but like bakery.
So I got this with a Russell's one time, and it was like orange. I said if you bottled an orange pound cake, that was the Russell's that I had. This is a departure from that. This is so vanilla-y and bready.
Yeah, I get it's so strange for me. Every time I nose this one, I get Fruit Loops.
Okay.
I get Fruit Loops cereal, and I get like a frosting, like a cake frosting.
Yeah.
But it's not that buttercream frosting that they use now. It's like that frosting like when I was a kid, like the
Good old
really
Crisco.
yeah, it's like that real sharp, vanilla extra bunch. It's like that it got that sugar kind of. You can almost get the grittiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then of course I do get some orange, like you're talking about, somewhat like a push up pop.
Yeah.
But the thing about this E barrel is I could probably sit here for an hour and find notes just on the nose alone. It has a lot of complexity. And I can tell you that it's probably not going to be everyone's favorite turkey because it does not nose like the typical turkey.
Right.
It doesn't taste like the typical turkey either.
And I think that's the catch-22 of single barrels. You get some really fantastic expressions of classic flavor profiles, and then you get some that are just complete departures.
Yeah, like on the palate, I get like a juicy fruit gum. It's an odd barrel, and a lot of the E's had these types of qualities to them. I just felt like the one that Jason and Joshua picked for Single Cask Nation was just stellar. Again, tasting it right now, and I have to agree with my assessment that I wrote up on the blog. Which, by the way, if anyone's curious about, we were kind of naming some of these, Jewish Whiskey Company, J&J Spirits picks over the years. Not to confuse anyone with what I was trying to name them, earlier, but you can go to my blog and they're all there. I've reviewed all of them.
I like the cinnamon red hots mixed with like Big League Chew. That's the I don't know if that's that Boston baked beans.
I mean, I could definitely see cinnamon red hots on the finish for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a spicy finish, but again, it's not a drying finish.
Right.
No.
And I really like that.
Yeah, it's between the two, like that were released this year. That G and the E. The G is a lot more of your kind of core turkey notes.
Yep.
A lot of candy bar notes and caramels and nougat and roasted nuts and this type of thing. That's G all day. But it's not unlike some other G Russell's Reserve picks out there, in all fairness. This E barrel is a wild card, much like some of the other E barrels out there, but this one to me is just a cut above. I'm quite taken back by how much complexity there is in this one. If you don't like fruit, you will not like this bourbon because there's a lot of strange fruit going on here. It's citrus, tropical in some ways. Like I almost want to say it leans banana-y in a weird way, but not banana like Barton or Jack Daniels.
Like banana runts almost.
Banana runts.
That classic banana.
That's the one. It's got banana runts in it for sure.
I didn't get it on the nose. I didn't get it on the front, but like as I've sat here in like that mid palate, as you're like replenishing your saliva and everything, it's that banana-y fruit,
like artificial. Yeah, or like Laffy Taffy banana, something like
that. It was like a collective mind agreement that just happened. It's great.
That's what this is. I'm telling you, this is a crazy barrel. It's like you could sit here for an hour and like every time you would nose it, every time you taste it, you're gonna find something different with it. Like I get like a bready kind of quality. I think Eric, you had mentioned that.
Yeah,
like a dough, almost like a dough.
This was like walking into a bakery, and it's like a bakery with like I can smell. You said the frosting. I can smell them putting like the frosting on a donut.
Yeah,
and I can smell them making it. Like it was real. I don't know. Like I said, I love the nose on this.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and the strange thing is, again, I'll have to admit, this is not for everyone. Like, this is one of those where, like, if you're going in this expecting that rare breed type profile or that core turkey kind of thing with the caramel, vanilla, a little bit of citrus and oak char, and this is not it. This is like way different from Russell's 13, way different from Rare Breed. It's got its own thing going on. But that's what, Joshua and Jason are known for.
Yeah.
Is picking and that's what a good independent bottler should do, is look for something that stays true to the distillery but offers a new sipping experience.
Right.
And that's what it's still very clearly Wild Turkey.
Yeah, it's still turkey, but
it's
in a very different way.
Fantastic.
All right, we'll head on to the Mac Daddy Rare Breed.
RB.
Rare Breed Spectacles Testicles are 116.8. So the highest of the three.
Well, thank you for titrating us up.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, the highest of the three. And reportedly a blend of 6, 8, and 12 Wild Turkey at barrel proof, 116.8.
See, to me, this is just concentrated 101. The notes that you get in Wild Turkey 101 are heavily concentrated here in Rare Breed. Except, I feel like Rare Breed has a little bit more of a maturity aspect to it than 101. Like, it's got a little bit more oak to it. And in a Zoom meeting I was in with Bruce, he had even mentioned that, we would be surprised to learn how much 12-year goes into Rare Breed, that it's actually a good bit of 12-year that goes into Rare Breed. And you can, if you sit there and really analyze it, there is a good bit of oak there in comparison to Wild Turkey 101.
Mm-hmm.
Whether a lot of that is proof-based or if that's just simply that there's older barrels in there like he had mentioned. It's definitely got its own little touch there with the maturation with the oak there.
It has enough oak in it to kind of stave off the sharp cornness of a 101. And I don't mean that in a bad way about 101. Just it's
no 101.
You can just tell it's younger. But this like you said, it having more 12 in it is just enough to kind of round it out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's not that 101 is young. It doesn't come across as a youthful whiskey. 101 tastes like a much older whiskey. Doesn't taste like an old whiskey. It just tastes like 6 to 8 year whiskey, like it is.
Right.
Rare Breed just has that little extra touch of oak. Like you said, it kind of rounds off the corn element that you get in 101. There is kind of a sweet corn, even a graininess sometimes with 101. Yeah. I mean, not necessarily a bad graininess, but there's a graininess to modern day 101 that you don't really find in the old 101.
Right.
And Rare Breed rounds that off. Of course, the proof is hiked up a good bit, and I wish it were non-chill filtered just because there's no reason to chill filter it. But
technically it would save money, wouldn't it?
You would think. I mean, it would save time, and time is money. So,
it's just an extra step you're not doing.
Yeah, I mean, I reviewed the NCF Rare Breed today, and honestly, guys, in a blind, it would be 50-50. I mean, depending on the person, it's really like tasting two batches of Rare Breed against one another. It's really, there's no night and day difference. So anyone thinking they should pay a lot of money for the NCF Rare Breed, in my opinion, don't.
Just a viscosity thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a little thicker, but then again, you could have another batch of Rare Breed that might give you that same kind of mouthfeel too. Right. It all depends on the batch. You could have another batch of the NCF where it's like thinner for some reason. So I don't think there was. I guess the bottom line is there was not enough difference for me to warrant paying a premium.
Right.
If you can find it at retail and you have the choice between Rare Breed and NCF Rare Breed, buy the NCF Rare Breed.
Right.
But between the two.
Don't break your wallet trying to do it.
Right, exactly.
I think Rare Breed 2 in up against my other favorite barrel proofs like Stag Jr., Elijah Craig, Jack Daniels. There's a thick sweetness that they're all what Eric and I call syrup bombs. They're so thick and viscous and sweet. And I think Rare Breed comes in again with that oak and just completely balances that out. So yes, it is a barrel proof offering, but you can sit and sip it and not feel like it's some decadent treat.
Yeah, I'll say this, like, I mean, I can't do it anymore because, like, I've gotten to where I'm actually, when it comes to, like, daily sippers, I'm leaning more towards lower proof pours like Russell's 10. But there was a time when I considered Rare Breed a daily sipper. I would never say that about Booker's. I would never say that about Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. They're just too much. They're heavy. You know, they're like, you know, pour it one time and sip it, and then the rest of the night you're chilling on something a lot lower proof, you know. But Rare Breed doesn't sip 116.8 proof. It sips like low 100s. It's just very, very approachable on the palate. You know, if anyone out there is not real well acclimated to barrel proof bourbons and they're looking to get into barrel proof bourbons, Rare Breed is the first one I'm going to recommend. And that's not because I'm a turkey fan. That's because I genuinely believe that for barrel proof bourbons, Rare Breed's probably the most approachable of the bunch.
And then let's talk about the other aspect of Rare Breed. You can find it.
You can find it.
And it doesn't break your wallet like Booker's does. Goodness gracious.
Okay.
I mean, Booker's is like $100 now.
Calm down, buddy.
Started on Booker's.
Yeah, I mean, when I got started in the hobby, Booker's was $49.99, and you know, I would buy a couple of them a year, no problem. Now, I mean, the last one I bought was the what was the cured ham one? You know, that one.
Yeah.
You know, was that
like 20
a year ago?
Yeah, 20. I think that was 2020 release, I think.
Okay, so you know that shows you how long it's been since I've purchased a Booker's bottle.
If I'm able to find a Booker's at a Costco, they're $75 and I'll buy it. But that's it.
Call me next time you find that, man.
That's the highest. I see. Our Costco. See, I live in Fort Myers, Florida. Eric lives in Gainesville, Florida. Our Costco has cases of Rare Breed rye. $49.99 sitting there.
Yeah.
We don't have a Costco. No, I hate to say it. Wild Turkey may be pretty close to the perfect bourbon.
Amen.
I don't hate to say it. I'll say it.
I hate that you just got to that point.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the good news about the hobby where we're at today is there's a lot of variety. There's a lot of options out there. There's a lot of crap whiskey out there where, you know, and not so much crap and flavor, but crap and how much people are trying to profit on top of it. So you'll find a whiskey because a celebrity is involved, all of a sudden it becomes $200 for the bottle, when it's really probably more like a $60 whiskey substance wise.
Right.
But there's a lot of options out there. To me, Wild Turkey has stayed very anchored in its roots. You know, I'll go to my local liquor store and I see people from all walks of life buying handles of 101. And they're buying it because they trust it. You know, they've grown, you know, to love the profile over the years, and this is what they buy for their house bourbon. These aren't people like us. They're not chasing bottles or looking for the next, you know, release or posting pictures to Instagram of bottles. I'm sure there's people out there in the world that like look at my account and they're like, what the hell? Like, This is just pictures of liquor. You know? Like, this guy's got a problem. I've actually had people send me direct messages going, I think
man.
you have a problem.
You okay?
And I'm like, this is what I do. Okay.
You don't have you've got a problem. You don't drink Wild Turkey.
And but there's a lot of options out there, and Wild Turkey has stayed true to the core consumer, which is the people that buy the handles of 101. And when you start looking at the expressions outside of that, they don't stray too far. I mean, Rare Breed, for what it's priced at, is a damn good buy.
Right.
Russell's 10, damn good buy. The 81 is priced appropriately. You'll have the Master's Keeps, and they're up there in price. But, I mean, they're trying to occupy that same space that, like, Johnny Walker Blue is occupying, this type of thing. So, if you kind of take a look at their core line, don't, so much look at the LEs, because all the brands have their LEs.
Right.
But Wild Turkey is very appropriately priced, so that anyone that's not an enthusiast that wants to kind of venture out and get a fancy bottle, they can go from that handle of 101 every other week to maybe saying, this week I'm going to buy Rare Breed, or I'm going to buy Russell's Reserve Single Barrel, or I'm going to buy Rare Breed Rye or something. And they're not going to like really hurt their monthly budget, because they're paying a little bit more, but they're going to get something, familiar, but a whole new experience at the same time.
On that discussion, there is another core Wild Turkey bourbon that we left out, but we're going to bring it up in this episode. And I've heard you talk about this before, and I'm wondering if you know any insight about this. But this, it's Long Branch. Are they trying to do something similar to what Sazerac did with Benchmark down the road with that brand?
I don't think so. I think what you'll see with Long Branch is you'll probably see a rye. I think you'll see a Long Branch rye.
That would be good.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think you'll see that. The only issue I have with that is how different is it going to be from Russell's 6-year rye?
Right.
You've got to be able to set yourself apart from that 6-year 90 proof expression that's easily found for what?
It's got to be smoky if that's going to be the niche of
$35.
Yeah.
I think you'll see a rye though. Personally, for me, I feel like if they want to take Long Branch to the next level, which is that consumer that is not so much a bourbon enthusiast and is not really this daily sipper type of drinker either, where they're just kind of buying handles of stuff. You're trying to reach this crowd that buys Gentleman Jack.
The Basil Hayden of Wild Turkey.
Exactly. It's like a high class, but it's like that Crown Royal kind of high class, where it's like, it's like,
we're not insulting Long Branch. We're just saying that's.
Well,
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's fancy. It's fancy in presentation,
right,
and everything. But people don't want to get nerdy. Like, they don't give a shit about, like, barrel proof NCF, maturation. They're like, they just want, like, what's fancy. I want a fancy whiskey. So
there's a reason
Branch,
that bottle looks Prohibition style.
Right. It's like Long Branch is kind of like the Gentleman Jack for Wild Turkey. Yeah. Now, where I think they should go next is probably not where they're going to go, because I don't think they're going to listen to anything that I have to offer here, because McConaughey's going to do what he's going to do. But I think that they should do RTDs and liqueur, personally.
Okay.
I feel like, they should have some slender cans of Long Branch and ginger and Long Branch and cola, and they would kill it on the golf course, and people would buy them like crazy.
Now that you say something like that, I think they could do a because this has gotten popular. People ordering smoky old fashions. Well, because they're doing the refined with the mesquite, that could be a ready to drink Long Branch old fashioned.
Hell yeah, that's a great idea.
Get on it, Matthew.
Yeah, I mean, that would appeal to that base consumer, especially if you put it in a fancy bottle with like maybe even like a kit. You put like 2 glasses in there. You have the Long Branch Old Fashioned.
Yeah.
Boom, done.
Man, I didn't
You
know
could
that.
have the Long Branch Boulevardier or whatever, and
Yeah.
put like a little mini bottle of Campari in there with 2 glasses. I don't know, but I also feel like with the liqueur they could have like a Long Branch vanilla, or something like that, where it's kind of. I could be wrong, but I think they would do very well. But
If they do a rye and don't call it the all right, I'm done.
No.
I'm done with them.
My thing, like I said, they've
You
got
heard it here first.
You can't have Matthew McConaughey put on a rye whiskey and then not say all right. I'm just
All right.
Yeah, well, it's been beating the ground a good bit. So.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I know. That's just. I don't even know if that demographic would even buy that. that even knows what that quote came from.
I guess I'll say, to wrap that up, there's a lot of potential in that brand to grow. It's not with the enthusiasts,
right?
And it's not with your people buying handles of Evan Black or Beam White or 101 even. It's for this crowd that kind of fits in the middle, which is like that Crown sipping crowd where they want the fancy bottle, they want the felt bag, they want it to kind of feel like I'm buying an expensive whiskey that's not expensive.
Right. To one last little subject on our kind of limited edition talk. Wild Turkey's put out some. They got a limited edition set, which is their Master's Keeps, and then they got a ultra limited set, which is the 3 Russells dated that has come out: 98, 2002, 2003. All 3 completely different whiskeys in their own right, can stand toe to toe against amongst the best of them. But the Master's Keep series, and I'm going to speak in just generalities because some of them gave out but they were all around 8,000 to 11,000 bottles, roughly.
So I think 14 up to that range, maybe even more for like decades. Had a lot more. Than that. I think we're pushing 20 for decades.
Okay, so the limited edition Russells were in the 2000s, roughly. All right,
2 to 3, yeah.
Do you see or hear anything other than a Russell's named ultra premium whiskey like that coming out down the pike? Or I know if you know anything, you don't have to say anything, but
no,
a different Ellie is what I'm getting at.
I know that just through interviews and some Campari videos, webinars that were public, that they've talked about, they're working on a boar rye. So we're looking at like another approach at Forgiven. What that entails age-wise, proof-wise, whatever. Will it be in a Master's Keep bottle? Will it be something of its own, like a new Forgiven? I don't know, but they are working on some type of boar rye. And then they also hinted at, they said in one of these videos that they're working on some collaborations with other entities that are owned by Campari, and they specifically talked about Appleton Estate, and that they were looking at doing some things with some rum casks. So I would think if there's anything in the future for Wild Turkey, we're probably looking at something with a blend of the rye and the bourbon, and probably something to do with finishing casks with rum casks. Another thing that you could see, because I've heard this talked about before in some of these webinars that the Campari community does, where they have experimented with things like finishing bourbon in X rye barrels and finishing rye in X bourbon barrels. So they're always kind of trying things, playing with things, seeing what works, what doesn't work. Whether that turns into something or not is a whole nother scenario. But I feel like from the number of times I've heard the discussions about the boar rye thing, it would not surprise me if that's the next Master's Keep, is a bourbon and rye blend. And wouldn't surprise me if we see maybe the year after that a rum. But as far as a vintage Russell's, I think we'll be lucky enough just to have another release of the 13-year next year.
Yeah.
I don't really see the vintage Russell's thing happening anytime soon, but I could be wrong. 1998 happened because Eddie had tucked those barrels away for Jimmy's retirement, and that didn't happen. And so they just let him age. They let him age a little bit longer, and he was just like, "Let's just bottle it." It's like
how many retirement bottles have there been?
No kidding.
Diamond, the 98.
Yep, he stuck those away because he was like, this will be for Jimmy's retirement, and of course, that didn't happen. Tribute was supposed to be a retirement bottle.
That's funny.
So anyway,
those two, man, Diamond and the Master's Keep 17, the first one, two of my favorite turkey expressions.
Yeah. Well, now the 17 Master's Keep, the very first Master's Keep, Jimmy don't even want to talk about that one because that was aged off-site at those stone rick houses, and he doesn't want nothing to do with that. He hated that. He gave Eddie the hardest time about that. But Eddie's like, we had to put him somewhere. We just so they had to lease him out. But anyway, but yeah, so 98 was set aside for Jimmy and his retirement. That didn't happen. 2002, I don't really know if there's much of a story to that one, as it was that just like, I guess they just had these barrels and felt like they were going to bottle them at barrel strength. It was at a time period where like Revival was out and that kind of thing. To me, I feel like Revival is superior to 2002. In the 2003 was really, Eddie had found kind of like this lot of barrels that were the last of that that 107 barrel entry proof, but they were very low proof. They were like under 90 proof, and they had this really elegant kind of dusty quality in the sense of having a lot of sweet oak to them, but not in a dry or tannic sense.
I remember Bruce talking in a podcast one time, and they were asking if they were ever going to release something similar to the CGF profile or whatever, and this was before 03 came out, and he's like, oh yeah, we got something coming down the pike that's going to be similar to that. And I didn't know it was going to be the Russell's 2003, but I'm pretty sure that's what he was talking about.
It was, I had in 2019, I had a conversation with Eddie at a restaurant, and he said, I'm working on something that kind of reminds me of CGF a little bit. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, the bad thing is it's I don't think it's going to get over 90 proof. And I'm like, that's interesting. And then that came out, and I see what he means. It doesn't have the dusty funk. It doesn't have that kind of fermented fruit cellar type quality, but it does have a luxurious oak aspect to it, and I feel like you get some of that in those dusty turkeys. You get like in the older dusty turkeys in the 12 years, you get that kind of oak where it's not overdoing it, but it's like it's a lot of it, but not overdoing it. I love 2003. I thought it was excellent. People were comparing it to 2002 and stuff. And I'm like, if you put them in a blind, it's going to be tough because the 2002 is such a high proof compared to it. It'll trick you, But I feel like the 2003 is a much more elegant, finessed, pour with a lot of nuance and elegance to it.
10-4. Well, DJ, I appreciate you coming on, man, and humoring us with our little series that we were going to do.
Happy to do it.
I've enjoyed this, man. It was learned a lot. Got to traverse through some history here, and got to taste some exquisite representations of wild turkey.
Absolutely.
Never a bad time.
Not at all.
Eric, where can they find us?
Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We are at Eric's Drink Whiskey on all 3 platforms. You can find David. He is Rarebird 101. But this has been absolutely delightful. I love wild turkey, and it's a bit of a fanboy moment to. I've read the book. You know, we've chatted with you before, but somebody who just has so much knowledge about the brand it's such an awesome experience to be able to chat with you about turkey, David.
Hey, man, anytime, y'all.
We appreciate it. All right. Well,
Hey.
till next time.
Yeah, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.